Well, good morning. How are we all doing out there? I am excited for this Thursday morning. I have been really kind of getting into a topic. It's a little off of our real estate world, but something that I think is important just for us in general. Um, and it has to do with the topic around loneliness. It seems like this is a topic that I don't know, a lot of people are dealing with. Um, it's been interesting to listen to some of the thoughts from some of these kind of mental health experts as they study this and they look at their ability to kind of track what's going on in the brain more and more than we've ever been able to. And it's just been fascinating to me. And I thought it'd be a topic that we chat about for a little bit today um, regarding how to kind of notice maybe that it's happening and why is it happening and some things that we can do to hopefully not let it take us over. So kind of the general gist is that as we, started on this planet, we were extremely in need of everyone around us. You did things together as a tribe. Everybody kind of played their role, and it was very difficult for one to survive without those around us. And that need for being around people has slowly been taken away to the point where we can now do pretty much everything on our own, but we still have that need deep down inside us for connection. We don't need somebody to cook us dinner. We can do a DoorDash and have it delivered. We don't need somebody to entertain us. We just go on our phone and swipe. And when we think about it, it's pretty sad. That we can entertain without connection, and you seem entertained and you get that dopamine hit in the moment. Um, but I just wonder if we really understand what's going on and we really understand how important that connection is at a time where I think it's pretty critical. One of my missions is not to just bring people together on this call, but to start to do more stuff in person, bringing the agents together, getting them in a room. That was one thing that I've always been energized by is when I go to these conferences and I go to a mastermind. There's a difference between doing a mastermind on Zoom and doing a mastermind in person with the energy of the people that are in that room. It's just different. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And something special happens in those connections. So I don't know. I just wanted to open the floor for this a little bit. I don't know if anybody on the call is struggling with this or feeling this way. But I've just been doing a lot of listening and reading on this topic, and I know people are struggling with it. So I thought it'd be something that we could talk about a little bit here today. And I think as an agent, it can definitely get lonely, and there are 100% times where you need to be alone. You need to figure out who you are. You need to figure out what direction you're going. And you've got to turn everything off and you've got to sit there with your thoughts. As a matter of fact, it's probably the best way to get around the feeling of loneliness is to be by yourself, to be with your thoughts and kind of let that, kind of fester a little bit and kind of let the thoughts just kind of run wild until they run out. Because that's all they are, is they're just thoughts. When I walk into a room and you walk into a room, we both see the room completely different, depending on what happened that morning, what happened that week, what's happened that month, how's my year going. We're both walking into the same room, but we're going to see it different. We're both walking into the same meeting. We're both walking into the same first appointment with a buyer. We're both walking into the same listing appointment, but we're going to see it completely different. So, Julius, I saw your hand up.
Yes, yes. I just wanted to say I struggle with this myself. Like you said, as an agent, it can get like you get that lonely feeling a lot. You need to kind of be in your own zone when you're trying to get your work done. So you kind of isolate when it comes to that. But then, like you said, when you come home at the end of the day and everyone's on their phones, and that just drives me crazy. So I definitely struggle with that myself. But at the same time, like you said, you kind of need to sit with them thoughts sometimes, and have that alone time at the same time. So I struggle with it, and trying to figure out better ways to handle it.
Well, I think you've started at the best first step is that, hey, this is just an issue that we just, and that's why I'm trying to raise it here. It's an issue that we've got to deal with if we want our mental health to be in the right place. I do everything that I can to make sure that my family unit is happy, is healthy, is, active. We're eating the right things, we're doing the right things. But we go on this weekend we went on a car trip, road trip to my son's hockey game, and we've got four people in the car doing four completely separate things. I'm listening to a podcast, my wife's listening to a podcast, and my kids are each doing their own thing. We're all within 2 feet of each other. No need for each other, right? What did a road trip used to be when I was growing up? And the family was together. We're playing some game. At least the two kids in the back seat are together, right? There was a need to have each other, to keep each other, entertained for the car trip. And maybe the two people in the front seat are jamming out to the same song or having a conversation. Or so this is the society that we're in now. We do not need each other. People are living by themselves more than they ever have. Renting a solo studio, just not living, whereas before you've got not just your own family, maybe you've got extended family all jammed into one place. And it was an interesting statistic. It said the higher up you were on the financial ladder, the less happy you were. And one of the things that they pointed to was the neighborhoods that you live in. The wealthier the neighborhood, the less those neighbors talk to each other, right? You think about if you've ever been, on vacation or something into like the wealthiest of wealthy neighborhoods, those neighbors don't talk to each other. But in the lowest neighborhoods, the lowest economic neighborhoods, right? They need each other. They hang out with each other. They're going to borrow the rake. They're going to borrow the snowblower. They're sharing things. There is a need for one another. And there tends to be a higher level of happiness, even though the income level is not nearly the same. What else do we have for thoughts? What's resonating here? Martin.
One thing I talked to my wife the other day, like we're both watching supposedly TV. TV's on, but we're both on our phones sending each other text, and we're literally like 2 feet apart, waiting to see which when someone's gonna laugh at the video we just sent them. Like it's kind of silly in a way, That's all.
It is silly, and I just don't, I think we're at a really critical time. Phones and social media have just really exploded past decade, like just tremendous change. And we got to be aware, and we've got to have the antidote. We got to have the strategies. We got to have the skills to beat it. Or you're going to feel lonely, no doubt. Who else?
I'll go.
Let's go.
So I think that, like everything in life, it begins with me, right? So, like in my house, you cannot get to the kitchen table with your phone in your hand. It has to go in a basket on the counter. And my kids are 27 and 24. I require at least a once a month family night that we're in the house. I call it forced family fun time. We do one vacation still, a long weekend, us, with their significant other. Don't get me wrong. But I think that I am guilty. I can be at lunch with a friend and I'm checking my email. I'm checking to see if the offer came in. But we can look around and say, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is terrible, but we got to do something about it, right? We got to execute it. We got to, in the car, you're 100% right. That's how we roll too. We got to go back to the let's play punch buggy. So my father stops the car and whips us for punching each other. Like we got to go back. We have to make the change, be the change, execute, right, Steve?
That's why I'm bringing it up because I think we know it, right? But as I've been listening to it and I've been hearing the examples and the data is just there and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And it's getting easier and easier to just not need other human beings. And just at the core, we need others. So let's figure out ways to do some stuff together. And maybe it's uncomfortable, and maybe the younger generation needs to get pushed out of their comfort zone, and the older generation needs to be the driving force behind it. But I do believe that this is a major part of why we're having the issues that we're having. Linda.
I'm sorry, I came to the call a little bit late today, so I don't know if this was touched upon, but I do feel like our young people were put at a really, really bad disadvantage with having to be shut down with COVID. And I'm not in any way making a judgment call about the fact that they had to. I'm just saying that when children are out of school for an entire year and they're forced even further into being alone. I don't think that helped in any way with them. And when we all came out of COVID, I think they were, as if they weren't at a disadvantage with all of the technology in their hand to begin with. This really caused, I think, a setback in terms of, building our social skills. I remember when our office reopened. And I went in for the first time, I felt so socially awkward. It's like I forgot how to talk to people. And so then for children who I think they're not learning social skills the way we did because they don't have to interact with others the way we did face to face. And then on top of it, to be out of school and in their bedrooms on their devices for a year with COVID, that really led to some retardation, if you will, in terms of the building of the social skills. So I think there's a lot of things that have gone into play that are making it even harder and harder for our young people to learn how to look people in the eye and to communicate. And it's a real breakdown for our society as a whole. And so yeah, and so we as parents really, really have to step up in this regard. I love, Chris, what you were saying about, hey, put the phone in the basket before you come to the table, so that we can look at each other in the eye, ask each other how your day was. Let's communicate. And because like any skill, if you don't practice it, if you don't use it, you lose it or you don't acquire it. So, and it's very serious. This is a very, very serious topic that we're talking about. 100%. And the erosion, like anything else, happens little by little, chips away day by day, right? So it's going to have a cumulative effect where you don't see it happening on a moment by moment basis. But if you look at things over the long term, it's going downhill, and it's not doing us as individuals, as people who are wired to live in society and to need each other. It's going counter to the way that we are wired and designed to thrive in the world. So it's very concerning. Very
Yeah, I mean
concerning.
that's why I'm trying to bring it up here because I think it's that slow erosion that it's happening, and we know maybe it's even happening, or subconsciously we know, but let's get it forefront and let's do something about it. Chris.
Well, my last thought was just to what Linda just said was Zach had my 16-year-old had his first job interview a couple weeks ago, and it was on Zoom. It's for Camp Shepherd in Westfield, and it was a Zoom. And he said to me, Mom, how do I shake his hand? And we teach them these things. When you meet someone, you shake their hand, you stand up, da da da. I was like, that's such a good freaking point, to what Linda said, but it is what it is. I don't know the
Yeah.
answer to that one.
And the problem is when you try and make these changes, especially with your kids, they're gonna, you're gonna have to deal with some screaming and some crying and some, but these are the types of things that I really think we got to do. Katie.
I think I just also wanted to touch on the point that with the social media and the way people have been looking at it now, it's very isolating on its own because people are posting their highest points. You're seeing everyone on social media post these like congratulatory moments and these, festivities and group events. And it's, but you don't see the downside. They're not posting about the loneliness or when they're feeling down or when they're feeling low. And if you take that, you kind of put it into the job that we do, we're looking usually at like, couples who are buying a house and they're elated and they're happy and you're seeing all these happy moments. It's very easy to start feeling isolated where you see all these good things happening to other people and you're so happy for your clients, but it also kind of brings up that same isolation of like, but it's not me. That's also hard too.
Yeah, the best analogy there is I heard was everybody has a birthday, but on social media, it's everybody's birthday every day. It is just happy, 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 happy. And you do get some people talking about some of the downside, but the reality is not enough of it. Nobody's going to show their weakest side. And the reality is, I mean, most of life is probably not happy, right? There are happy moments, even for the people that are living the best lives, but there's always struggle. It's constant struggle. So, well, we got you on screen, Katie, and I apologize. They made an update to my software, and I always take the update, but now I've got a blurry camera, and I don't have the ability to share the guest speaker on our live stream today. So, but yeah, do you have a topic for us? Something that you're passionate about to bring to our real estate community today?
So I feel a little weird bringing this one up right now, but I was going to talk about divorce.
No, I think it ties in really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about it, and then maybe we talk about a lot of what we're talking about here is why the divorce rates are going the way they're going. So let's do it.
Yep. So definitely I'm seeing more and more couples coming in, and whether it's on the buy side or the listing side, you're seeing, what do we do? Our couples are getting divorced, or they're at the point of separation, but they're not divorced yet. What do we do? So there's obviously different sides to each one, but we're going to kind of do sell side versus the buy side. We'll take them separately because you handle it differently because people are in a different place at that moment. So if you're in the middle of a divorce and you're going to be selling your property, there are a couple of different options. And I always, at least once a week, I have a realtor giving me a phone call saying like, hey, I've got this person, they want to buy a house, or they want to, let's do this. They want to sell their house, but they're in the middle of a divorce. What do we do? And my first question is always, how far along in the divorce process are they? Are they filed? Is it filed with the courts yet? And if it is filed with the courts, is a separation agreement in place and approved? Because the whole purpose of filing and then needing that separation agreement is because Massachusetts law, they will freeze the assets of the spouses to make sure no one is buying, selling, or refinancing in order to make sure they're not hiding money from their spouse. So if your client is in the middle of a divorce and they want to sell their house, you need to make sure that they have the right to sell that house because it is a marital asset. If they are in agreement that they want it sold, you still need that separation agreement in place unless they're going to do the sale prior to filing the divorce. And the reasons for that are, like I said, courts want to make sure that they're not hiding any money from either spouse. Once you get to a place where the separation agreement is in place, usually that either means that it's in mediation or there's, at least an amicable divorce, or there's attorneys involved on the divorce side. Then I need to speak with both divorce attorneys for the parties, and I need to make sure what the proceeds split is. Is there a directive for how the proceeds are supposed to go? Are all proceeds being sent to the divorce attorney to be held until they're determined by the courts and what's going to happen with them? Those are all things to think about. So if you have a couple who's thinking of selling their home, if they're contentious in any way, your safest bet is making sure that they have filed and have a separation agreement approved that has determined what's going to happen with the real estate first. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting into these battle wars where there's no person to back them. There's no attorney on either side. And you as the realtor, you get stuck in the middle. You become the counselor. They come to you and, can you believe this jerk? He won't let me sell the house, or he doesn't want to move out and he refuses to pay for utilities, or, different things like that. And you're the one who's going to take the brunt of it. They're going to come to you with the questions and you've now become their therapist. And that's a tough position to be in because now you're representing both of them and all you're trying to do is sell the home. So that's the best thing that you can do if a divorce is imminent and it's going to be coming. If they've already filed, make sure that they have that separation agreement in place and they've got their own divorce attorneys that we can handle it with. On the opposite side, if you are looking to purchase a home, I've had an uptick in people coming to me saying that they want to buy their home, but they're in the middle of a divorce. So you've got your parties, they may still have their marital home. It's not sold yet, but they're like, I got to get out and I need to separate from this person. I'm going to buy this property over here. The first thing we're going to ask you again, is there a separation agreement in place? Because those assets are frozen. You can't buy, sell, or refinance because they don't want you hiding those assets. So if that's the case, and we're in a position where one party is looking to buy and they're in the middle of a divorce, if it is after the agreement, we're always going to send out an affidavit to have the other spouse sign. We're going to ask for the spouse to sign an affidavit saying that they are aware that the purchase is happening. They are aware that their spouse is putting a mortgage on a property. And with that, that they release their right of homestead in the property and determine it not to be a marital asset. Otherwise, it is completely fair game in the divorce for it to be brought in, and I want half of the equity in this property. If they use marital assets to purchase it, it's fair game for them to ask for a portion in the divorce when it comes down to it. So that can make things very tough. I've had instances where that was not the case, where the other party refused to sign those rights away. Now that causes a title issue for me because now I've got a mortgage under one named party. The other spouse doesn't want to sign an affidavit releasing anything. So the title insurance company doesn't want to give anything up because their collateral could be gone if the divorce is finalized and the court says, nope, this is no good. You have to sell it if you can't agree. So where's the point in that? You've kind of lost it. So you really need either a party that's going to agree. And if they're not going to agree, you're going to need to know that they are going to indemnify and hold harmless you, the attorney, everyone in the whole extent of it, because they can all come after, kind of like a lead paint class action. So those are the types of things that you want to look out for when you've got a divorce coming up, especially when there's a buying party, because it usually, if the divorce is at the stage where one party is starting to leave, there's going to be some animosity, and spouses aren't usually very open to signing an agreements in the middle of that. I see some hands up. You want to ask questions?
I think Linda's yours might have just been kind of
Oh.
hanging from the last one. Yeah.
No, I actually did have something that I wanted to ask about or talk about.
Sure.
Okay.
And that is this. I've had several women who are going through a divorce contact me. And of course, it's so uncomfortable to be with the spouse and they want to get out of the marital home and they want to buy a home.
Mhm.
Here's the problem. They are going to be getting spousal support. And the mortgage company is not going to issue a loan to them until they have seen that their soon to be ex has consistently provided them with the spousal support as laid forth in the divorce decree for 6 months. They've got to get 6 months of those payments so that they feel comfortable that the person responsible for those payments is going to be good for them. And so, and it's devastating for these women who are so uncomfortable in these scenarios, but they can't, but their hands are tied. They can't get the mortgage. And they need to know, they need to be aware of that straight away.
Absolutely. If they're not able to qualify on their own and they need that spousal support to help them qualify for the mortgage, it's going to be just like a pay stub. They're going to want to see 6 months of consistent payment coming through to make sure that that money is going to remain consistent. Because again, we're looking, if you're qualifying, if their spousal support is part of your qualification, they're going to want to know it's coming in and consistent. Because if it doesn't, again, they're going to end up having to foreclose. Now it's a predatory loan. They've got all of their TRID guidelines that they are required to follow, but it's devastating to see it happen. It really is. Because I've seen parties, the wife ends up going and moving in with family. And now, it's so hard. It's so hard on everyone else, which is just a reminder to any women out there, make sure your finances are in your own and that, you're taking care of yourself. You're not reliant completely financially on your husband. Because if you're going to divorce, it's just another reason you're going to need to qualify on your own, or you're going to have to show consistent support coming in.
Amber, your hand was up.
This is actually a good topic today because my very best friend has been in a very unhappy marriage for 30 years. It's been miserable for 10, and she's always stayed because of the kids. Then it was when the kids graduate, then when the kids graduate from college. She's now in a situation where she's decided that it's time. They had the discussion. He refused to leave the house. The mortgage is only in his name, but the deed is obviously in both of their names. There's a HELOC in her name. She He refused to leave, and she was just done. So she decided to leave because her son still lives there. Her dogs are still there, which she can't take with her. Um, and she's struggling because now she has to, pay more for rent than he's paying for a mortgage. He's decided he's never has touched anything in that damn house, but now he's renovating, he's moving people in so that he has help with the mortgage. I'm telling her to, get her ducks in a row.
Yeah.
She's saying, they're gonna do it amicably and try mediation, which I don't think will work. Um, he's already looking into refinancing and buying her out. My fear is they're kind of doing it backwards. I told her to file ASAP, like what you said, and get something in writing. And I don't know, any advice other than what you've already told?
So I mean, the first step is I totally understand her reasoning for wanting to get out of that house and get out of the situation if he's refusing to leave. On a divorce attorney side of it, I know that's always the advice they tell you not to do. Don't leave the marital home because once you're out, you're never going to get back in. That's one of the things that the divorce attorneys are always going to tell you because possession is 90% of the law. But if you are in a position where you have to get out, sometimes you just have to do it. And the best thing that she could do at that point, in my opinion, is file. Have it filed, get that separation agreement in place. If it goes through mediation, then they can, agree to it that way. If not, if they have to get an attorney to make sure that they argue it out on either side, that's the way to do it. Because if she's making decisions from an emotional state and an emotional standpoint where they're at right now, where you're saying she's upset that she's paying more for rent than she ever had, than he's paying for a mortgage. Now he's doing renovations. Well, he's using marital assets to do that, and it's going to go to his benefit because he's the one in the home. So likely it's going to turn into this kind of emotional thing where it's like, well, I put money into this house. But it was marital asset, and it creates animosity like you wouldn't believe. And they say, what is it, death and divorces bring out the worst in people. So it's probably going to be tough. I would recommend exactly what you're saying. Have them file immediately, have her get a separation agreement in place that gets approved by the courts to make sure that she's getting what she deserves out of that marital home that she had with him for however many years.
Yeah,
I
they built
think
this house in 99, so it's been.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely she deserves her equity out of that home.
well, good topic, Katie. I appreciate you bringing this one, and I appreciate the I don't know, the conversation earlier. Like, I know this isn't a difficult one, and we had some people, you know, just open up a little bit, which I think was what makes this call great. And I appreciate you guys coming to the call, being vulnerable. Let's talk about the things, because for us as agents, I've always been somebody that, like, it's very difficult to be a real estate agent and then just shut it off at home. Right. So if these things are festering, they're affecting our relationships, they're affecting, whether that's with our significant other or with our kids, our home life, as an agent, it's not a 9 to 5. This is part of us. So we've got to get these things right. And I want to talk about this stuff, as I think if we can get this stuff right, it makes our real estate job a little bit easier. So we'll finish like we always do. Let's take a look at the trainings that are available today. 3 different ones today. New Agent Starter Series. This is a really good series. If you're a new agent on the call, I highly recommend that and you don't have to just do these live ones. You can go back and watch the recordings. Journey to Elite. Let me highlight this one too. I think, I've had, I don't know, hundreds, if not 1,000 agents work for me over the years at this point. There are so many different ways to get to the top. And there are so many different timelines that I've seen agents do it on. most of which take 15 to 20 years to get to a level where you are selling 30 houses a year and you're getting to elite. And this was an interesting one. They're kind of spotlighting different agents that have gotten to that elite level where they're selling 30 plus houses a year, and how did they do it. So if you're on the call and you're aspiring to get to that level, I think this would be an interesting one. There's a bunch of replays too, so you can hear people's journeys to say, hey, you know what, that journey sounds kind of like my journey. And maybe there's something that you can learn, or even like reach out to these individuals if you're looking for some help. Hey, I heard you talk about this. How did you do it? I think that's one of the best things about the real community is you've got a really open and collaborative group. So as you meet these people that are doing these trainings, that are getting spotlighted on a training like this, reach out to them and ask for help, guidance, etc. So that's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. The goal is always to make this the best way to start your day in real estate, and I hope we're doing that for you. Appreciate any feedback to make this show a little bit better, and have yourselves a great Thursday. We'll come back and do it again tomorrow. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Have a good
Steve.
day.